Now I want to experiment here. Okay, I don't like that. Factory reset and do a restore. Or you can just hit CV restore. It'll just restore everything back into the decoder right away. Hey guys, George at SoundTraxx here. And this week we wanted to give you a new installment of the Blunami app. But this time we're going to talk a little bit more about the Android version that we have released recently, especially with a lot of new updated features that help make running your trains and setting up your trains a lot more fun and easy. So let's get started. Now, as we've mentioned recently, we've actually released a new version of the Blunami app for Android that actually does incorporate consisting. Now, I have shown you a brief interview into that, so we won't go into that part of it now. So in front of me today, I've got two locomotives, very, very different. I have a S4 over here. So this is a switcher that has a 539 turbo. And then I have the PA over here, which has an Alco 244 turbo. Now, at the moment, both locomotives are actually muted. So we're going to go ahead, and the first thing I want to do though is I want to show you really quickly in the app. We're on the home screen. And so you can see that I've connected to my two locomotives, but at the bottom you'll notice that it only says multi-train. And so when I click that, I go into the screen where I can actually operate more than one locomotive at a time. But if you just want to run one locomotive at a time, we're going to go back to our single screen, or to our home screen here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply click on the locomotive, and then there you're going to see that the home screen actually comes up for the single locomotive. This is where I have full access. So we're going to open up our functions. We're going to unmute our S4. We have full control. And you can see that we've got a little bit of momentum in the locomotive set up. So that way it takes a little bit of time. So this locomotive is already set up to be an Alco S4. So it has all the sounds. Now there's a couple of things I want to show you. So we're going to go down here to the gear. We're going to go to settings. Now this time we're going to go to CV settings. And you'll notice there's a few different menu options here on the CV page than there are in the Apple version. Now this is all going to be coming to Apple. So be patient guys. We're working on it as fast as we can. But you'll see there that you have CV backup, CV restore, and copy CVs to other loco. Now what this does is this allows you to quickly copy a multiple locomotive settings from one locomotive to multiple engines, so that way when you're setting up a fleet, let's say for example you decided to buy 3 or 4 of these S4s or 3 or 4 of the PAs, whichever one you purchase, because today's modeling, remember, it's not just usually one road number, you get 3 or 4 of each road number, or different road numbers in each road name, and if you buy them all, then you'll want to match them all. So this is a really quick way to do that. So you get your settings, you go in, you select your sound, you select your horn, bell, momentum settings, braking settings, all the cool things that we've been talking about over the years. But then I can simply push CV backup, and you'll see that the app actually has done a CV backup. So when I have my reset decoder, now it says, warning, this is going to set everything back to default. So it's going to take away all the settings that are preloaded. So we're going to say OK. Now we have to power the decoder on and off. Now with a current keeper, this is going to take a few minutes because the power on the current keeper has to fully drain and the processor has to completely shut down before we can do a complete reset. So it's taking its time, and we're back on our home screen here on the app. So as soon as this dies, now we can go ahead and do the factory reset. Now we're going to go ahead and wait a few more seconds just to make sure the processor is completely down, just to make sure that the reset takes place. Now we've done these videos on multiple other occasions showing you the CV 8 to 8 reset. And so the app actually did that for me behind the scenes. By pushing the reset CVs, the app actually set CV 8 to 8, and then it will actually come in as reset. Now, the big thing to remember here is that the Bluetooth chip ID number is still retained. It doesn't reset that. So that way, when we reconnect to this through the app, it's still going to show the P&LE 8663, but all my CVs are going to be reset. So I'm going to go ahead and rail this on one side first. So that way I'm not bouncing around. So once I'm railed on the one rail, now I'm going to set it down. Now it's going to be quiet for a few seconds, the sound should come up, and then the lights should start to flash. That's our visual indication that the reset has in fact taken place. And as you can see, the headlight is flashing. We're now again reconnected to our locomotive. So we're going to go ahead and just do the same thing. So when we do the reset, you'll notice here that it says DCC address. We do want to go ahead and fix that because the app retains it as 8663, but the decoder goes back to address 3. So we're going to go ahead and hit send. Now when we do this, we have control of our decoder again. And you'll notice the air horn is the default, and you get that instant start and stop response of the decoder. But now, because I was resetting the decoder, and let's say I want to go back to my settings, well, then we can go to CV settings, and you can see CV restore. So when we push CV restore, you want to set all your CVs from the latest backup. The answer is yes, because we just did that. So now it's going to basically go through, and you're going to hear the prime mover change. You're also going to hear the air horn change and all of those different sounds to match up what was inside the decoder before we did the reset. Now it only takes a few minutes, or a few seconds, I should say. And we are done. All right, so now that our decoder's done, apparently it was the same default prime mover as it was a minute ago, but we go ahead and blow the horn. You'll notice that now it's matched. But now in moving in the reverse direction, when I crank up my throttle, you'll see that my momentum is actually back in the decoder. And my settings, we'll go back to general settings. It didn't reset the address, and the reason for that is, again, because it wants to make sure it has communication. So in this case, we can go in here, 8663, we can just reset this address to the proper one, and now we have our proper DCC address. Whoops, there we go. Just like that. So all of our settings are actually restored back into the decoder the way it was before the factory reset. So that's one of the great features. So if you're going through and changing things and experimenting with the features, you can actually go in and do CV backups regularly, so that way you have a baseline to where, okay, everything worked the way it did before, now I want to experiment here. Okay, I don't like that, factory reset and do a restore. Or you can just hit CV restore, it'll just restore everything back into the decoder right away. So you have a few different options that way. Now the other thing here is, as I mentioned, we have our PA. Now this time, I'm going to go to the multi-train screen where I have access to both locomotives. So we're going to go ahead and start this locomotive up, unmute it. Now you can hear, I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off for a moment. So you can hear we have a different prime mover. This one I've actually got set to a 251 right now, just to make sure it was something different. But the good thing is that we can go back into our settings. So let's say, for argument's sake, we want to make sure to match the two locomotives together. So again, we can come in here. First, we're going to go to our PA, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a CV backup. And what that's going to do is that's going to back up all of the CVs that are stored in this decoder right now, to make sure that way we are not overwriting anything, and we can also go back to where it was. But you can see here there's a CV copy utility. Copy CVs from this loco to storage, or copy CV storage from app storage to this loco. Alright, so now that we've done our CV backup, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my other locomotive. Now when I go over to my Pittsburgh and Lake Erie switcher, go to the CV settings. Now in this case, I'm going to copy CVs to another loco, in which case we're going to do this here. Now when I click that, it says Santa Fe PA, choose a loco to copy to. Now if you were connected to more than one other locomotive, you could have the choice. But in this case, we're going to do this. So when I click this, copy all. Now the app is going to take all the CVs from this decoder and set it to this. So here in a few seconds, you're actually going to hear the prime mover change and go from the 251 to match the 539 turbo as this one is set. So this will happen here in right there. As it's rolling through the CVs, you can see which CV number it is. So you'll know that it's there to match up and make the air horn match. or the prime mover match in this case. But it's making basically all of the same settings that are stored in the CV backup here to this locomotive that's over here. And so once this is done, this is almost done, and once this is finished, then essentially we'll have two of the same locomotives just with different names and different addresses, because it doesn't store the backup of the addresses. It just copies all the other CVs because they're different locomotives, and the app knows that. And we're done. So now we're going to go back. Now we're going to run our PA. And see, now you can hear that it matches because it's matching what was here. Same thing. So when I come back over here, we're going to unmute. And we're going to have the same air horn on both locomotives. Whoops. So you can see quickly how you can copy locomotives from one to the other. Now let's say, for argument's sake, it's getting a little loud in here. So we'll go ahead and shut that guy back off. But now we're going to go ahead and with our PA, we're going to go ahead and restore the CVs. So we're going to go back to our CV settings. We're going to CV restore. Yes. So now what this is going to do is this is going to go back and restore all the CVs back to the way they were before we did the CV changes, the last time we did the backup. So as this is cycling through, once we get to, as you can see on the screen here, CV123, you see that now the prime mover is changing because that was what was previously stored in the CV backup. And so now you hear the prime mover go back to what it was before we did the copy loco to other locomotives. So this is just a great utility that you can use that's in the Android version of the app today. You can download the latest version right now, and along with a lot of the other cool features of the Blunami that we've talked about, you get this copy loco and copy CVs to loco, so that way you can copy locomotives profiles back and forth. You can also store your CVs and back them up anytime you need. So that gives you the courage to go in and experiment and play with some of the settings that we actually have in our decoders. So guys, I hope this has been helpful for you. This is one of the really neat features that we're really looking forward to and sharing with the new Blunami app as we move forward. So be sure to check out your Blunamis and get them at your local retailer. You can also check them out online at SoundTraxx.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.